Good morning. We begin today, August 25th, with a major new effort to combat the nation's fentanyl crisis. A privately funded campaign called Make America Fentanyl Free launched on Monday, aiming to support President Trump's pledge to reduce overdose deaths. The multi-million-dollar initiative will feature a blitz of advertisements on national television and major social media platforms. Organizers say their mission is to educate Americans about the extreme dangers of fentanyl, a synthetic opioid that remains the leading cause of death for Americans between the ages of 18 and 45. The campaign highlights that ingesting an amount as small as 3 grains can be lethal within minutes and emphasizes the hidden danger of fentanyl being mixed into other drugs like cocaine and marijuana. This effort is designed to bolster the Trump administration's existing strategies, which officials say have already yielded results. They point to a 54% decrease in fentanyl traffic at the border during the initial months of the administration, and a law signed by the president last month that permanently places street versions of the drug on the list of controlled substances, making it easier to prosecute traffickers. However, the administration's approach has also drawn criticism. Opponents point to proposed major cuts to domestic programs that work to reduce drug demand. In California, for example, Democrats have argued that what they call the unlawful deployment of military personnel to Los Angeles has slashed the state's National Guard drug interdiction force by nearly a third, directly harming the state's ability to fight the flow of illegal drugs. Organizers of the new campaign stress that their effort is funded entirely by private contributions, with sources indicating that several of the president's major donors and allies are among the key backers. Staying in Washington, a significant intra-party conflict is unfolding over the process of judicial confirmations. The top Republican on the Senate Judiciary Committee, Chuck Grassley, is standing firm against renewed pressure from President Trump to eliminate a long-standing Senate tradition known as the blue slip. This custom effectively gives home state senators the ability to veto nominees for district court and U.S. attorney positions. In a series of social media posts, President Trump argued the practice has completely taken away his constitutional right to appoint officials in states with even one Democratic senator. He urged Senator Grassley to tell the Democrats, as they often tell us, to go to hell. However, Senator Grassley pushed back on Monday, arguing that without the blue slip tradition, none of the president's nominees would have the votes to get confirmed. He stated, "As chairman, I set President Trump noms up for success, not failure." The debate is fueled by Democrats' use of the procedure to block some of the president's picks. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, for instance, used his blue slip privilege to nix U.S. attorney nominees in New York. Similarly, New Jersey's Democratic senators, Cory Booker and Andy Kim, used it to object to Alina Habba's nomination in their state. The issue is expected to be a top priority for Senate Republicans when they return from their August recess after Labor Day. The administration is also facing challenges in the courts over its policies. On August 22nd, a federal judge in San Francisco issued a ruling that bars the federal government from suspending or blocking funding to 34 so-called sanctuary jurisdictions across the country. The order, from U.S. District Judge William Orrick, extends a preliminary injunction that prevents the administration from placing new immigration-related conditions on federal money for these cities and counties. The ruling impacts major metropolitan areas including Boston, Seattle, Los Angeles, Baltimore, Portland, and Chicago. This legal decision is the latest development in an ongoing battle between the Trump administration and local governments that limit their cooperation with federal immigration enforcement. The administration has sought to cut off federal grants, particularly from the Department of Housing and Urban Development, as a way to compel compliance with its immigration policies. Judge Orrick's ruling specifically blocks the administration from imposing these conditions on 2 particular grant programs, reinforcing a judicial check on the executive branch's efforts to influence local law enforcement priorities through federal funding. Meanwhile, a significant political battle is taking shape in California, with potential national implications for the balance of power in Congress. Voters there will decide on November 4th whether to approve Proposition 50, a ballot measure that would temporarily override the state's independent redistricting commission. If passed, the measure would authorize the creation of a new congressional map specifically designed to favor Democrats. The move is being framed by its supporters as a necessary defensive measure. California Governor Gavin Newsom, who signed the bill authorizing the referendum on August 21st, and other state Democrats say the measure is meant to fight fire with fire. They point to recent redistricting efforts in Texas, where the legislature was convened by Governor Greg Abbott to draw new maps that heavily favor Republicans in upcoming elections. The California bill was rushed through a special legislative session, highlighting the urgency Democrats feel in responding to partisan gerrymandering efforts elsewhere. The outcome of Proposition 50 will be closely watched as a key skirmish in the nationwide fight over political map-making. Finally, President Trump is once again taking direct aim at major news organizations, suggesting their broadcast licenses should be at risk. In a pair of posts on his Truth Social platform on August 24th, the president called out NBC and ABC, labeling them fake news and two of the absolute worst and most biased networks anywhere in the world. He questioned why the networks are not paying millions of dollars in additional license fees for the use of public airwaves. President Trump went further, stating that the networks should lose their licenses for their unfair coverage of Republicans and/or conservatives. He argued that at a minimum, they should be required to pay up big for having the privilege of using the most valuable airwaves anywhere at any time. The president concluded his message by stating, "Crooked journalism should not be rewarded. It should be terminated." His comments represent a significant escalation in his long-running criticism of news outlets he deems hostile to his administration and raise fundamental questions about the relationship between the presidency and the free press, as federal broadcast licenses are typically renewed by the FCC based on technical and public service criteria, not political content